purpose, so I give my life. I'm giving you all of me. Out of the darkness and into your light, my heart surrenders to your design. You gave me purpose, so I give my life. I'm giving you all of me.
Good morning, Calvary kids, and welcome to Children's Church Online. I'm so glad that you could join me this morning as we continue to talk about friendship. Now, remember, over the last few weeks, we've been talking about how friends take care of one another. We talked about David and Jonathan. Last week, we talked about Paul and Barnabas and how friends accept one another, how Barnabas accepted Saul after he chose to believe in Jesus Christ. Today, we're going to talk about two really amazing friends. We're going to talk about Jesus and Peter. Now, Peter was one of Jesus's best friends. He was one of the 12 disciples, which were a group of Jesus's friends that traveled around with him everywhere he went. But probably one of the closest disciples to Jesus, probably one of his best friends, was Peter. And Jesus and Peter had a very special bond. They were together really from the beginning. Peter was one of the first disciples that Jesus called to come and follow after him. Peter was with Jesus all the time. Peter was one of the first people to actually acknowledge that Jesus was the Messiah, the Son of God that had come into this world so that we could be forgiven of our sins. Now, Jesus and Peter had their issues. Peter messed up a lot, but they were still really, really close friends until one very important day where Peter really messed up. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, because we're going to talk about how friends forgive one another. Friends forgive one another. And we're going to look at Jesus and Peter and how friends forgive one another. Now, before we get into that, though, today, I've got a couple items up here with me. I've got some breakfast items up here with me. I got some Cheerios. I got some oatmeal. I want to know from you guys, what are some of your favorite things to eat for breakfast? Maybe some of you like toast. Maybe some of you like eggs. Maybe some of you like cereals. Maybe not Cheerios. Maybe something like Cocoa Puffs or Fruit Loops, Lucky Charms, Reese's Puffs, all the good stuff. Maybe some of you, I'm a big fan. I like donuts, right? So you can give me a donut for breakfast, I'm good to go. Maybe some of you, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but maybe some of you are already drinking from your parents' coffee. There's a lot of cool things that you can have for breakfast. And today, we're going to be talking about a time where Jesus and Peter actually had a special breakfast together. Where Jesus and a few of the disciples, but especially Peter, they had a very special breakfast together. So this story is found in John chapter 21. Where the Bible tells us this is after Jesus had died on the cross. Jesus had risen, 3 days later, Jesus has risen from the dead. He's appeared to Mary Magdalene and the women at the tomb. He's appeared to the disciples. And now Peter probably doesn't quite know what to do now that Jesus is back from the dead. And so one morning, Peter wakes up and tells his brother Andrew and his friends James and John, I'm going to go fishing. Remember Peter, if you don't know anything about Peter, before he started following Jesus, he was a fisherman. That's what he did for a living. He'd go out in the boat, try to catch fish, he'd sell fish. That's what he was. Peter was a fisherman. So Peter decides one morning, hey, I'm going to go back to fishing. I'm going to go back, I'm going to go out on my boat and go fishing. James, John, Andrew, you want to come with me? They decide to come with him. They go out into the boat and they fish all day, all night long. They don't catch a thing. Not one fish. They don't catch anything. They spend all night fishing and nothing. They don't get anything. So, but as the morning comes, probably Peter and Andrew, they're out in the boat, they're waking up. They see somebody on the shore, and the person on the shore yells to them and says, hey, have you got any fish to eat? You got any food for breakfast this morning? Have you caught anything? And Peter yells back, no, we haven't caught anything. And the guy on the shore says, why don't you throw your nets on the other side of the boat? Try throwing your nets on the other side of the boat and see what happens. So, they've been out there all night. They haven't caught anything, but Peter probably thinks, you know what? Why not? What's the harm? So they take the nets, they throw it on the other side of the boat, and the Bible tells us that all of a sudden, all of these fish swim into the net, and as Peter and Andrew are trying to pull up all the fish, they can't do it. With the net starting to break, there's so many fish that they've caught that they have to call over to James and John in the other boat to come over and help them pull in this huge catch of fish. And Peter, looking at this catch and then looking at the guy at the shore, he realizes, I know who that guy is on the shore. That's Jesus. And it was Jesus. The Bible tells us that Peter was so excited to see Jesus again that he jumped out of the boat and swam to the shore, leaving all the fish behind. He jumped out of the boat, swam to the shore just to get to Jesus, to be the first one to get to Jesus and see his best friend. And Peter swims all the way to the shore, comes up on the shore and sees that Jesus already has breakfast ready for him. He's already got a fire going. He's cooked some bread for him, some fish for him. Jesus has already got breakfast prepared for him. And Jesus invites Peter to come, sit down, have breakfast with him. And Andrew and James and John, they finally pull in the boat with all the fish. And Jesus says to come and have breakfast with him too. And they're all eating breakfast together. But when breakfast is over, Jesus tells Peter that he wants to talk to him alone. So Jesus and Peter go off on their own together. Now, this is the first time that Jesus and Peter have been alone since Peter did something really, really bad. So I'm going to back up the story here a little bit. Before Jesus died, Jesus told his disciples, look, I'm going to have to go to the cross. I'm going to have to die. And when they come to arrest me, all of you guys are going to scatter. All you guys are going to run away. And I'm going to be left by myself. And when Jesus said this, Peter stood up and said, Jesus, I promise you, no matter what happens, I will always be with you. I'm your best friend. I'm not going to leave your side. Even if it means I have to die, I will be with you, Jesus, because you're my best friend. And I'm not going to let anything happen to you. If I have to die with you, then I'll die with you. And Jesus told Peter, before the rooster crows tonight, before you hear a rooster crow tonight, you're going to deny me, say that you don't even know who I am 3 times. Peter was like, oh no, I would never do anything like that, Lord. I would never do anything like that, Jesus. You're my best friend. But you know what? When everything started to happen just the way Jesus said it would, Jesus was arrested, all the disciples ran, including Peter. And when Jesus was being put on trial, being put to death, 3 different times people came up to Peter and said, hey, you're one of Jesus' best friends, right? You're one of his disciples. You know him. And Peter said, I don't know what you're talking about. I just saw the crowd of those people. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what you're talking about. Because he was afraid. Another time somebody came up to him and said, of course you're one of his. I've seen him with you before. He's like, no, you got me mistaken with somebody else. I've never seen this man before. I don't know who he is. And the third time happened. And then Peter starts getting really mad. He starts using some bad words and says, I do not know this guy. Just get out of my face. I don't know who he is. And then he hears a rooster crow. And Peter realizes that he messed up big time. He just said 3 times that he didn't even know who Jesus was. And the Bible says he went out and he cried. He asked for forgiveness. But this is the first time that Jesus and Peter have really been alone since that happened. You know what? Peter might have been a little scared, you know? This is basically, he's basically betrayed his best friend. He said, I don't even know who he is. I don't know who this guy is. Peter messed up big time. And he probably doesn't know what Jesus wants to say to him. He probably doesn't know if Jesus is going to chew him out and say, you're not one of us anymore. You're not my friend anymore. But here's what happens. It's found in John chapter 21, verse 15. It says, when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus asked Simon, that's Peter, Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said to him, you know that I love you. Feed my lambs, he told him. A second time he asked him, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, he said to him, you know that I love you. Shepherd my sheep, he told him. He asked him a third time, Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved that he asked him a third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. Feed my sheep, Jesus said. He said this, truly I tell you, when you were younger, you would tie your belt and walk wherever you wanted. But when you grow old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will tie you and carry you where you don't want to go. He said this to indicate by what kind of death Peter would glorify God. After saying this, he told him, follow me. So Jesus asked Peter 3 times, Peter, do you love me? And each time Peter replied, of course I love you. You know that I love you. And Jesus told him, feed my sheep, shepherd my sheep. And then at the end he tells him, follow me. Basically what Jesus was telling Peter there was, he was giving him a chance to kind of redeem himself there. Because remember, 3 times he said, I don't know this guy, I don't know who he is. So he's asking him 3 times and getting him to tell him 3 times, yes, I love you. Yes, I believe in you. And basically what Jesus is doing here is saying, Peter, it's okay. You messed up, but hey, follow me. You're still with me. You're still my best friend. I still love you. I still care about you. Even though you've messed up, Peter, I forgive you for the things that you did wrong. I forgive you for denying me, for saying you didn't even know who I was. Peter, I forgive you. You're still one of us. Follow me. You're still my friend. You're still my best friend. And Peter would go on to be one of the leaders and really one of the founders of the early church, go on to write several books in the New Testament. But even though Peter messed up, Jesus still forgave him. That's what I want to encourage you guys to do today. Here's the thing. With friends, you're going to fight. You're going to have hard times. You're going to do things. You're going to make mistakes. Do things that get on each other's nerves. Here's what I want to encourage you guys today. Even when your friends do something that maybe bugs you or make you mad, choose to forgive them. Because here's the thing. Jesus forgave Peter. But you know the truth is, Jesus has forgiven me. He's forgiven Pastor Jeff. He's forgiven each and every one of you. Of all the mistakes you've ever done, Jesus has forgiven you. That's why he went to the cross in the first place, so that you could be forgiven of your mistakes. Jesus forgave you. And so now what we need to do, especially with our friends, is when we mess up, when we do things wrong, we need to forgive our friends the same way that Jesus forgave Peter and the same way that Jesus forgives each and every one of us. All right, now before we go, we've got our memory verse for the month. This is found in Proverbs 17:17. Remember, it says this: a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a difficult time. Proverbs 17:17. All right, let's say that together on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a difficult time. Proverbs 17:17. All right, we got one more week on that. We're going to be working on that in Sunday school. It's going to be, we're going to get that, you guys are going to have that one down pat. It's a pretty easy verse. But we've got one more week here where we focus on friendship. So you have to come back next week to find out who our next pair of friends are that we're going to be talking about. Guys, a couple quick announcements really quick. First of all, for our parents, you'll see our Parent Q app. We're back in Sunday school. We'll be back in Children's Church in just a couple of weeks. As once we're fired up and ready to go with that again, this will be a huge resource tool for you guys. All the lessons that we do in Sunday school and Children's Church, there will be stuff that you guys can do at home as parents, as the spiritual leaders of your houses. There's stuff you guys can do that reinforce everything we just talked about in this lesson. So with Peter and Jesus, there'll be stuff that you guys can do at home, questions you can ask your kids, devotion times that you can do with your family. So I want to encourage you guys, go ahead and download this app because it's going to be such a great resource for you guys, especially in the coming weeks as we start out. We've already started back with Sunday school. We're going to be starting back up with Children's Church really soon. This is going to be such a huge resource for you guys. So I want to encourage you, go ahead and download it. Last announcement, this coming Wednesday night, there will be no Wednesday night activities here on campus because of fall break. So no kids on missions this Wednesday night, but we'll be starting back up the following Wednesday night. We'll be right back where we started. We'll have a brand new country. So I want to encourage you guys, if you can be here, 7 o'clock for kids on missions. Not this Wednesday night, but the next Wednesday night. We'll be right back on. This Wednesday night, though, we'll be off for fall break, so you guys enjoy that time just with your family and enjoy that time off of school if you're hopefully being able to take that time off of school. Guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. I love you guys. If you need anything, always feel free to reach out to me, and I'll see you guys next time.